You are listening to the Hello Sport Podcast.
What's happening, punters and dribblers? Welcome back to another episode of All Talk.
First of the season,
First
baby.
of the season, not just another episode.
No.
The first of the season.
Come on, Thomas.
Sorry.
Get the people foaming, son.
Listen, I should have gone harder. I got lost in the wash because there's a lot going on. It's rugby league's back, baby, and so I forget that it's the first episode of All Talk for 2025 season.
Brought to you, the punter and the dribbler, by the one, the only Good Day multivitamin. Go to begoodhealth.com.au. Use the code dribblers, 10% off. We know, like you know, like we know, that you're doing nothing.
Nothing.
At all for your nutritional health and for your body generally.
Vitamins and minerals gear.
Now, I'm not going to tell you to go run a marathon like Tom and I did, right? You can, you should, but the least you can do, is take your daily intake of B vitamins, which is just going to change your life. Bit of magnesium, some rhodiola, okay? Get that into the gob, down the gullet. Bob's your uncle.
You're good to go. Now, our first guest, we felt like kicking it off with a big one. CEO of the NRL. Sorry that we're getting C-suite on you. You know what I mean? Sorry I've gone straight to the top.
Straight to the top.
Andrew Abdo, good man. We appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule to come into the studio, sit down, have a yarn. Some cool insights, some interesting things were discussed. Obviously, we are trying to impose ourselves on the NRL rights deal for our own benefit, which you can hear about. But this was just the day before we had to fly out to Vegas. So we thank you, Andrew, for coming on.
Big fan of Andrew.
Big fan.
Huge
fan. Let's get into it.
Enjoy.
We'll record proper intros and stuff after.
Yeah,
the fact,
whatever
and
you
just
want.
sort of get rolling. But mate, it's been good. 3 years has gone fast. We've grown out of it quicker than I think when it was just me and Eddie when we first got in here. It was like a dormitory. We had arcade games and the pool table over there, which now has just become a glorified bench.
Yep. And Tom and I tried to do our own set design, so we tried to do it all ourselves. Looked horrific. Absolutely horrific.
Great.
I know,
great story. Yeah.
And now we've I think the same people maybe who do the NRL 360 sets or something are the people use, or at least they used to.
Mm.
And how many weekly listeners would you get? That's amazing.
Yeah, for Hello Sport. So that's
awesome, bro.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's good. It's
a big increase. For many years, Andrew, we had 30 listeners. That was
quite literally 30 listeners.
What was the breakthrough moment?
Anthony Watmow came on, and at the time he hadn't spoken publicly about his falling out with Cherry Evans
and the Manly Seagulls generally.
And Glenn Stewart was forced out of the club. He obviously went to the Eels. And he basically came on and called Cherry Evans a fuckwit, and it got picked up by all the media outlets. So that was a good boost for us. And
it wasn't it's never.
No, it was unplanned. Yeah.
Well, but also, we're not the way that when we do sort of chats is we're never really trying to get anyone to say anything hairy. He came in and just
happens.
How controversial do you want me to be? And we were like, I mean, whatever you want to say.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
And then he started calling Cherry Evans a fuckwit, and I'm kicking Eddie under the table. I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is huge.
Make sure the red button's on.
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine?
We've had that before.
Listen, there's always you lose footage over the years, but thank God we didn't lose that.
Yeah.
No, that would have been bad. But and then when he was quoted, or all the shows were quoting the podcast, because anytime the journos would call him to try and get another angle on it, he was like, it's a Hello Sport exclusive. I'm not saying anything else after that.
So we got a lot to thank Anthony for, which he reminds us of when we learn.
Every time we see him, he thinks he's made
us. I made your career, boys. Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with Anthony.
No.
Certainly not to your face.
He was part of it.
Yeah. When are you off to Vegas?
Tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah. Next year, you guys should do this in Vegas.
Well, we did last year.
Yeah.
We're big Manly fans.
Yeah.
So we were over there, and it was awesome. It was one of the funnest experiences ever.
Did you actually do your podcast there as well?
We did.
Yeah, we did.
We did the betting show from over there.
Yeah, okay.
We filmed a podcast with Maddie and Cooper Johns.
Okay.
Gordy and Hindy.
Yeah. The boys had a big night, so we made for great content.
Yeah.
We did a couple of shows over there. We did one from the bed.
Ganane.
Yep. But I've got a kid due in any day.
Oh, congratulations.
I am.
First, second.
First. Yeah.
Nothing prepares you. That's what I said.
I've been trying
in a good and in a challenging way. As in, there's no manual for it.
Yep.
It's just overwhelming emotions, and but then it's fun. My kids are now 18 and 15.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a while back. But it's the best thing in life.
Yeah.
I heard someone describe it as like living in a room, you didn't know there was a door, and then you have a child and you walk into this other room, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you got a kid?
I've got 3 girls.
Okay, well, you know.
I just had my 3rd in January, started January.
congrats.
So, it's just nice that he's
You guys are a bit
finally...
younger than me. I'm feeling old.
Are you chartering the jet again?
Yeah. We've sold out both 2 jets.
Yeah.
And
nice.
Warriors chartered a jet and they sold it out as well. So we got like tomorrow straight, like obviously direct into Vegas. Like whatever, how many? 400 people.
How do you work out who gets the business class seats? They must be pretty sought after.
It's actually quite a complex exercise. The one cool thing about this job is I've always wanted to like sort of do business in the States. I've always wanted to like think about running an airline. I'm doing like a mini version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the truth is priorities are given to people who buy, obviously.
Yeah.
and then we allocate to the board and then we have some invited guests and sponsors that we put in there as well.
Do you get blow-ups?
Anyone?
On the plane.
No, as in like
anyone
people that
being
don't get like someone
"Excuse
that
me."
is bumped from business to
Mainly staff. Have we started?
Yeah, right.
right.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll get you. You haven't said anything controversial, so that's all right.
You've got final edit.
Yes, exactly.
Don't
Is
worry.
there first class on those planes, or is it just business and then?
No first class. It's a Dreamliner, so it's just business, premium, and then economy.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Maybe
Only first
next
class
year,
on the A380, mate.
Well, listen, maybe next year that's what we angle for.
Yeah. So how would that work if we wanted to come on the chartered jet?
Do we have to pay for it, or do we?
Or do we just send you an email, like a nice email?
Given the size of your
Amber.
empire here, well, I would expect you as sponsors.
Yeah. Okay.
We were thinking more like a hamper or something. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Put you on the Christmas list. That should do it, right?
You just mentioned then, like you'd always had designs to do business in America. How's that been for you personally? Like the experience with, I guess, how it's been so far.
I mean, if you were going to do business in America, this is a pretty challenging way to do it. You know, it's a sort of, it comes back to that, old Sonata song. If you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. So for me, it was about, this was an opportunity. And I remember having the first conversation with Peter where it was, America and the US presents such an exciting opportunity for the game. We're taking what we think is the greatest sports competition in the world to this massive market where there's just so many sports fans. And from that moment on, it was, okay, what do we need to do to make this successful? And the combination of Peter's vision and his ambition for making the US and my own sort of internal, I suppose, goals for wanting to make this successful, and then a whole bunch of teamwork and huge amounts of logistics. And we learned so much in the year leading up to it, because if you think about it, a year to prepare sounds like a lot of time, but it's not.
No.
It goes pretty quickly. Everything in America is obviously bigger, but it's also a little bit harder. Las Vegas itself is actually quite a interesting town. It was obviously run by the mafia many decades ago, and these days it's still a network of people that control the industry in Vegas.
Right.
So navigating that was actually quite tricky. Thinking about how to do business in Vegas in itself was a task.
And was there any, like, I guess, insights you could get from other sports that had maybe already tried it? Like, were you speaking to other people who had done it over there who were like, these are the people you need to talk to, or this is the easiest way to get it going? Or is it you guys sort of just having to work it out yourselves?
A bit of both. Like, I mean, we definitely got a lot of advice from our partners on the ground. So we knew to make this successful in Las Vegas, we needed to have really good partners who could help us. So the stadium is effectively owned by both the city and the Las Vegas Raiders. So having a relationship with the Las Vegas Raiders was critical. And being able to talk to their fans and being able to use their local knowledge was really important. The Las Vegas Tourism and Convention Authority have been terrific. They do a lot of major events. Obviously, a lot of sports around the world are using Vegas as a way to showcase, and a lot of people like to travel to Vegas, stating the obvious. But, having the benefit of seeing what Formula One had done, the benefit of the Super Bowl actually happening in that year, we got a lot of insights from partners on the ground, the Las Vegas Raiders, the UFC, the Tourism and Convention Authority and a few of our own sponsors and partners that had a presence there.
Did you look at any other cities in the US or anywhere else in the world, or was Vegas always?
It was always about going to America. Yep. The size and scale of the market and the time zone was another important element. So the West Coast was identified early on because you can play the matches in prime time on a Saturday afternoon, evening, and it comes into Sunday afternoon prime time in Australia and New Zealand. So the West Coast was important. And then if you think about it, you can play in LA. LA is massive and there's a lot going on. We identified Vegas for a couple of reasons. It's a great stadium. Like, it is superb. It's been one of the best fan experience stadiums I've ever seen.
It's crazy. Yeah, it was incredible.
Number one. Number two, Vegas is a place where not only Australians like to go to, Americans like to go to as well. And it obviously caters for an overall experience outside of the event itself. The time zone, and then also the partnership opportunity, the investment that we got from the Las Vegas tourism. So all of that kind of laddered up into being, this is where we want to, put our flag in the ground and then build over 5 years.
Well, I think it's a wonderful choice. I mean,
yeah,
if it was in like San Diego or something, you probably wouldn't have the same.
San Diego's a nice town,
That's
but
fine.
like, it was my first time to Vegas last year, and I was like, I was there for 10 days. I was definitely ready to go at the end of it, but I was like, this place, it's got a serious energy to it.
And to be fair, like, I know everyone thinks of Vegas as like, that's where you got to have a big party and it's Sin City and it's, it's about gambling. It's not. Like, the city is actually quite vibrant and transforming into a sports entertainment destination. So everything is pretty easy. The airport is really close. There's tons of hotels, great food, great shows, great entertainment. If you love golf, whatever your interest, there is something for you to do. And live sport obviously is big on the strategy of the city in terms of making them contemporary going forwards. And so unashamedly, we wanted to be the first big Australian sport showcased at a magnificent stadium in a city that's geared up to host people and provide them like a really wide variety of things to do.
It's obviously, it is not just a Sin City place, but obviously there's the Sin City side of it. Are you a Sin City man? Do you get around any of the tables when you're over there? Are you keeping it above board? What's the...
No, Luke, it's always on when,
red or black?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on when in my life you were referring to. But I'd spent some time traveling around America when I was a bit younger, and I'd spend some time in Las Vegas. This is all business. Yep. And so for me, like, literally 24/7, it's about focusing on making sure that all the stakeholders are having a good time, but also that everything is operating really well. So the logistics of it are all consuming, and making sure the clubs, the fans, our broadcast partners, our sponsors, you guys, everyone is everything is working.
Yep.
And everyone is getting what they need. And the year one of doing something like this, you can imagine there was quite a lot going on. I will share with you one quick funny story. So the night before the game, the field tray, so the turf lives outside and then it gets wheeled in. The field tray was getting painted outside, and I was like sort of having a moment. I was standing in my suit watching like the NRL logo getting painted over the Super Bowl logo from previous weeks, and I was just enjoying things. And the two guys that were painting the lines were holding a piece of string, and they were painting this white line. The string had like obviously paint on it on the width of the field. And I was standing in the middle of the field, and instead of getting out of the way, I started to like just bend down and let them lift the string over me. But I didn't get as low as I probably should have got. And as a result, the string hit me midway through my blue navy suit. And within seconds, I was covered in white paint. And it was sort of brought me back down to earth going, there's stuff to do here. I need to focus.
Back to work. Back to work. Peter V'landys looks like he's been working pretty hard to lure in the American viewer. He did that. Was that an ad on Fox and Friends? Was that a segment he was in?
Hostage video.
No, it was a personalised invitation to the president. I mean, the thing about Peter, he's got so much energy and passion for rugby league. He really does care, and he sees this as an opportunity to get promotion for our sport. And he's obviously, if anyone was going to convince the president to come to one of our games, it's Peter. And it was, an invitation that he put out there, and hopefully, you never know. We might hear back soon in the coming days.
Have you got anyone lined up to blow the horn?
Well, that's a choice of the Raiders, and I
so
know
they get to choose.
Yeah. It's a Raiders tradition. So each of the clubs, they have their different songs and their different traditions between each game and for each game. And they've put an invitation out to a couple of people. So I haven't heard the latest.
We've heard Dana being mentioned. Dana White was the most recent one.
I've heard a lot of big names mentioned.
We we're a little disappointed and also maybe a little foolish.
And upset.
Well, we're upset, but also I felt a little dumb. To find out that the horn itself is not actually blown. It's a button. It's a button-powered horn.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought it was no, kidding.
Listen, you're making us feel even stupider than I already do. Would you be in favour of a move towards a traditional horn? One that needs to be blown?
One that needs to be blown. Otherwise, how do we even call it a horn at this point?
But, like anything in production, like you got to take the risk out of it. Like I know, for example, this isn't live, right? And I know you're going to edit out all my faux pas. No, I mean the size of that horn. I don't reckon a human, could probably
actually
get the sound reverberating across that stadium. Anyway.
Okay, so it's a lung issue.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you got to pick people with lungs.
It's like WWE, right? It's real, but is it? It sort of is. It's still, you can get hurt.
No, look, that's fair.
People have been hurt before.
No, they have. Listen, I can respect that you can't run the risk. I mean, we saw a 90-year-old woman blowing the horn, and we were like, I'm going to call bullshit there. I just don't know how she's
Well, when
doing
we
it.
started looking, we started to notice some,
We noticed.
Yeah.
The consistency of the sound is pretty impressive.
Listen,
that's why I felt so dumb.
I'll tell you
everyone's
what's real.
like,
Though.
are you serious?
What's real is the Viking clap. Like that is something that's pretty authentic, and you can feel it in the stadium. And I know it definitely motivates the players as they're running on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, if that was fake, I'd be completely rattled.
Well, my faith in rugby league.
My faith in God's gone. Yeah.
Punters Dribblers, we are brought to you by Four Pines Japanese Lager. We were out at the brewery the other day.
Oh, we're brewing things up.
Things are brewing.
Things are brewing.
Oh, things are brewing.
We're brewing a couple of things
Things
in
are
the
brewing.
brew.
Oh, things are brewing out at Four Pines, mate. Japanese Lager.
Hey, better believe it.
We went out there, got to work as we do, and then tucked into some. I tell you what, go to the truck bar if you're in Manly. It's a fucking
Mate, honestly,
fantastic
it's such a vibe. We went down there for lunch. Shout out to the food, elite. But just sucking back a few Japanese lagers.
Big screen TVs,
too.
pints of Japanese lager, phenomenal food.
Oh, my God. They are fucking sensational. Don't believe me? Try one. Try one, bro.
Boy, try one.
Try one, bro.
Dare ya. Obviously, capturing a US audience is I guess, a goal of, part of why we're over in Vegas. How much do you guys look to US sports, other sports more broadly, but I guess when like charting a course forward or looking at ways to move the game forward, are you looking a lot at how sports are doing it over there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you thinking about and looking at what's going on in the world. Some of the best ideas are unashamedly taken from others and built on and customized for what's right for rugby league. We need our own strategy, and rugby league is such a unique sport with so much potential. So, what we do has to be right for us and our market and our fans. And the acquisition, though, of new fans and taking a sport to a new market, we've seen lots of sport around the world do that really effectively, and we are unashamedly looking at that. Take the NFL, for example. They have for a number of years now had a strategy for picking a market and then working with teams to go and penetrate that market and acquire fans in that market, either through a game pass or through fantasy football or through ultimately playing matches there. And the other, I think, important thing is we are watching and seeing what people like to consume. It's not so much what sports are doing, but what fans are doing or what customers are doing and what they want, how they like to consume the sport. I don't need to tell you this, but people these days have a lot of choice. And sports is entertainment. It's sort of all in one. So we want to make sure that we're still connecting with people. And one way to do that is to think about a global strategy, not only for that new market where you can win new people, but also, one of the benefits we got about our US expansion is people here in Australia were incredibly excited and proud about what we were doing. So we got the dual benefit of people getting together and celebrating the fact that rugby league and the NRL had a presence in America and it was successful. So we are looking at what's happening in the world, and we need to do more storytelling. We've got amazing people in our game, athletes, coaches, with so much rich history, and we probably don't do enough storytelling. You guys do a great job for us, but I think sports documentaries, thinking about America, thinking about new markets, sports documentaries allow fans who don't know anything about the sport to get to know the characters and the people, and that human connection is actually what then leads people into the game.
That drive to survive sort of energy.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
On documentaries, you notice in the US, even in Europe, the access to teams and players seems to be leaps and bounds ahead of where the NRL's at. in terms of access? For example, there seems to be a lot of pushback from the coaches to allow the media unfettered access. Even like a documentary around State of Origin would absolutely pump. Is there like any conversations where you're trying to mandate the clubs to do more, or is it just an uphill battle?
And also just on that, you look at like just the Super Bowl recently, there's like a space where each player is sitting at their own desk and the media just get to come and like...
They do that after every game in the sheds and stuff.
It's a great question. It's a really great question. And the answer is we absolutely need to do more. What you want is you want a closer connection between the athlete and the fan. And the way to do that is to, find a way where you can develop trust and openness. So you can mandate it, right? You can say like you've got, post-match interviews and pre-match interviews and the like. But actually the magic happens, in my view, when there's that authentic trust. The player feels like they can be themselves. And really the access is, it's not so much the access, but more around the conversation. Some of the best, most engaging content often happens either just before or even during or just after something really important, like a live sports match would be one example. But there could be other elements to that. So following a player on their journey on making it, getting selected, or coming back from injury, or dealing with a lot of the human issues that are there with sport. Being a professional athlete, I reckon is one of the toughest gigs in the world. It sounds obviously sexy and amazing, but it's incredibly hard on the players and their families. Like the amount of discipline and what you have to go through. And I think if we can find a way to get a bit more trust, and because it goes both ways, it's also the way the media then respect that openness that's given to them, but also the players, the coaches, and everyone opening up and allowing the fans to actually see and feel those emotions. That's where the magic can happen. I think other sports have done it better than we have. It's something we are definitely working on. And I'm excited about it because I think what it does is it just gives people even more of a vested interest into that player or that team or that storyline.
For sure. And you can see, having been able to see how other sports have been able to do it, particularly overseas, it's like, it's such a good opportunity that just hasn't fully been capitalized on yet for us. So like, it's kind of exciting to see that side of, just to know that that's there. You
mentioned Drive to Survive earlier, right? So I don't follow like motor racing, or I haven't been a fan of motor racing my whole life, but always sort of like known it at a high level. I watched that series and all of a sudden I understood the dynamics. It broke down the barriers. Like I felt like I could have a conversation about the sport without being a guru, but I was interested in the battle in the midfield. I was interested in the teams down at the bottom. I was interested in all the decision making that happens, behind the scenes. It gave my experience of watching Formula One, the start of a race or what was happening, so much more depth and interest. Now, when we take a sport like rugby league to markets where it's not their primary sport, like Americans, we've got to find a way to connect with them. And one way to do that is, telling the stories of what's actually going on, the strategy of the game, the selection, the players, the characters. We've just got, and the good news is, like, the content is unbelievable. We've got some of the best athletes in the world. We've got some of the most, charismatic coaches and players. So it's really just showcasing that.
Yeah, follow Ricky Stewart around for a season.
Yeah, after a loss. This is sort of a self-interest question, but it's off the back of what we've sort of been discussing here. And it's around, I guess, access like content creators like us and other people in Australia have to, NRL IP. And there are certain things like the social media landscape. There's your Fox 9 and maybe Sportsbet, and they're the only people who are able to repurpose NRL footage online, at least to my knowledge, without your stuff getting pulled down for copyright breaches. When you look at in America, the NFL, the NBA, there's like anyone can share anything. I think they see it as essentially free marketing, so that any content creator can repurpose footage for how they would want to, and not necessarily like, oh, here's a great highlight that Fox might want to show. It might be that we've seen something funny, or there's something interesting, or we've got
or we got a bet that came off.
We've got a bet that came off, or Mitchell Pearce and Todd Carney have started doing a show with us, and they might want to break down a particular play in a game. And it feels like, given, if we're just looking overseas and seeing the way that it's done over there, that it just feels like potentially there's another opportunity there again, self-interest, but it's an opportunity.
I get the question completely. Look, if you want to stay relevant, then you need to provide meaningful content in a way in which people want to consume it. And you're right in that there's a balance between reach and revenue. So having organic content created by you guys that's engaging and funny and connects with fans is good for the sport. So that's reach. That's getting more and more people, getting them engaged and bringing them into the sport. Against respecting, I suppose, how revenue is generated in the sport. And that would be on a contractual basis around the rights you provide your broadcasters and how you protect them. Somewhere in the middle is the sweet spot where you can become a bit more contemporary. So one of the focus areas for us at the moment is getting ready for the next broadcast rights deal. And in there, we do need to be thinking, it's a good challenge that you've said. You need to be thinking about how the rights could be monetized in a different way and how we can provide more vision and more footage and more elements of IP that can help us win new fans because we have a collective interest in that.
Yeah.
Where are the negotiations at? Have they commenced?
No, step one for us is to make sure that we have, our content in order, like our season structure, the number of teams, and how we want to package that up. That needs to be considered by the commission, and then obviously we want as many entities as possible bidding for those rights, and then we'll engage in a process. Hopefully, it's something that'll be good to be locked in now so we can really plan for the future and start to get excited about some of the new things we've spoken about and other things.
Is there, this may be like commercially confident, but in the US, like they've got one game on one network and is there that appetite in the way that you guys are pursuing the rights where potentially it's not just going to be a Fox and 9, it could be that there's a couple of games here or there or online streaming. Or
State of Origin might be solo.
Yeah, I think the commission has an open mind on this. Like you have to think about, all right, what's the best way to get to people but also make money and revenue is important for us because that we're a not-for-profit. So yes, we drive a surplus, but that's all to be reinvested back into the game. Elite, grassroots, etc. And we're a sport that has to invest in our pathways. NFL has the college system that produces talent. UK soccer, the Premier League, has the schools and the clubs that produce talent. We invest from the top down into clubs, and they invest too into pathways and talent development. So the mix of revenue and reach is important. To come back to your question though, absolutely, we're thinking about things in a different way, and it might be that it's 3 potential rights holders, not 2 in Australia. It might be that the commission monetizes the global market differently and more directly than we're currently doing at the moment. It might be that there are different, franchises that are looked at separately, like Thursday night football or Friday night football. Don't forget, we've also got the women's game, and you mentioned State of Origin. These are all exciting opportunities for us, but there are a few key principles. And the one key principle is we want to make the game. This is the greatest game for all. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it's not. Like rugby league it needs to be accessible. So we always want to have the game available to people. So how much we have on a free-to-air network is important, but even subscription television, making sure those subscriptions are accessible and affordable, and then making sure that you don't need to have 14 different subscritions to watch, NRL. So that all goes into the mix, if that makes sense.
So do you have, when you're talking with a Fox or people, the subscription ones, do you have, is that part of what you're discussing where you're like, your prices are too high or we need this to be below a certain price point for us to be putting our game behind a paywall? Like
maybe in days gone by, no, but now, absolutely. You have to be thinking, we have to take a greater ownership. The days of set and forget as a sports administrator are gone. You can't just say, we've done a 5-year deal. Sorry. We've got the cash. Well, what's everyone complaining about? You have to be thinking about what's going to connect and be relevant. Otherwise, you'll wane and you'll lose interest over time because media is fragmenting. People are watching things in different ways. Yeah. So you need to find a way to make it worth their while and make it be something that they have a value proposition in. And if you can't just distance yourself and say, well, that's so-and-so's problem, they have the rights. You do have to take a bit more accountability. And that's the way Peter thinks, and I think that's really healthy. As the chairman of the commission, he's thinking about and making us all think about the consumer.
So a lot of chatter in the last couple of weeks about the NRL announcing another team. Can you just blink if it's going to be the Western Bears?
Oh, a couple of blinks there.
Well, I've ticked the box. It's like one a day that I get asked about the Bears. So that's quite early.
It's very early in the day.
There's a lot of Bears fans out there that just are so loud, and I respect them for it because their tenacity to just keep hanging around is...
Well, this is as close as they've been for years. We've always laughed that, like, it's the off season because the Daily Telegraph starts writing about the Bears, but now it's like actually these are meaningful conversations now.
And would a team come in 2027 potentially?
Or is that PNG?
That's 2028, I think.
Oh.
Some big questions there.
Sorry.
So a couple. No, it's good. Look, a couple of things. One is how good is it that we are thinking about and talking about expansion? It's good for the sport. It's great that there's so much demand for it. We have 18 men's teams locked in now. So the PNG team will come in 2028, which is the start of the new cycle. And at 18 teams, we get another fixture, which is great. Women's competition will go to 12 teams this year, and we want to see that expanding over time as well. So I think we're in a really good position having 18 locked in. If the business case stacks up, if it genuinely means we're going to get incremental revenues from broadcast and the overall mix means that it's value accretive, then we will go to 19. But I think it's going to be difficult to see us getting to 20 because we just haven't seen so far a business case that stacks up in that regard. So the next couple of months are critical because we want to get that locked in before we then obviously have a conversation with broadcasters around what a new deal looks like.
Is there a team? Obviously, the Bears just wouldn't leave you alone, I imagine. But is there another team that just like is just always on the blower, constantly putting forward their case for a 20th side?
Yeah, I mean, there's strong interest obviously in Perth and WA. There's strong interest in Queensland. There are a number of teams that missed out last time when we had the expansion in Queensland that have a lot of rugby league pedigree and. There's a strong argument for another Queensland team, and there's a strong interest from New Zealand. So
New Zealand, I'd like.
That's kind of where the interest is being. And as I said, it's a good proposition for us because there's this cycle coming, and then there's the one beyond it. And obviously, we want to keep thinking about ways in which we can globalize rugby league and make it a truly global sport. And that's going to take a lot of time, but we're moving in the right direction.
How important is Nathan Cleary and Mary Fowler's relationship to the PNG, the success of the PNG team?
It could be something that plays on in the future as in a really exciting.
It's got to be everything, right?
A really exciting combination, isn't it? No, I mean he's obviously. I mean, it's what we were talking about earlier. That's what captivates people. Like there will be a lot of people that are Mary Fowler fans that now are interested in rugby league. There are a lot of people that know nothing about sport but are interested in the romance between the two. And obviously, if Nathan was playing for PNG down the track, that would be pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Are you proud of the game of rugby league having played such an important role in the diplomatic sort of relationships or situation, the geopolitical nature of
Yeah, absolutely.
Pacific?
So I grew up in South Africa where I observed many horrible things, and then one amazing moment where sport united a country, prevented a civil war, and got people all aligned with a positive and what's possible as opposed to what's wrong. It literally sport. Nelson Mandela's utilization of sport to unite a country was saved a country, and this is different. Like Papua New Guinea doesn't need saving, but it is a country that has many tribes, many different languages. And they are held together by this real passion and belief in rugby league as something that binds the people of Papua New Guinea together. They've been independent as a country for 50 years, but I believe the next couple of years, having a team and having rugby league in a grassroots level is going to change people's lives. And this is not a throwaway line. This is a genuine, authentic belief that two things. One, we as a competition are going to benefit from having Papua New Guinea in this competition. They're going to provide generations of talent into the future. There are so many people in that country, and when they get the benefit of good coaching and good structure, they're going to be an absolute powerhouse and providing players to the other teams in the competition. And the second thing is I believe rugby league being there and the investment that we're going to make there is going to change people's lives in that country for the better. And that is you can't not be proud. There's a lot of hard work ahead, but it is going to be transformational, and I'm incredibly excited. Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa. Rugby league is the sport of the Pacific, and we can kind of think about how we can help ourselves in our neighborhood prosper, not just by sport, through many things. But I'm also excited about what this is going to do for our competition. The players we're going to see, the fans we're going to have, the sponsors. It's going to be one of the biggest things in the game's history.
And my numbers may be incorrect here, but is their population like 10 million? Is that?
It's somewhere between 10 and 15 million.
Because I was just when it was sort of all being done, it was just like...
That's a lot of people.
Well, it's a lot of people, and it's just like, it's their national sport, but just to like unlock 10 million fans and bring them in, it's just an amazing...
The population is somewhere between that, 10 and 15 million people, but one thing is known and is certain is how many of them streamed the PM's match when the PNG Papua New Guinea PM's 13 played, our PM's 13. We had 2 million people stream and watch that on digital. So you're talking about a highly engaged fan base here.
That is unbelievable.
And the negotiation side of things, is there anything? Is that like an out of the box process for you in terms of things you've done in the past? Was it quite?
No, it's not quite out of the box. No, I mean, it's so unique.
Yeah.
So complicated. So many different aspects of it. And in short, it was about making sure that we are. This deal was about making sure that it's sustainable. So we have a successful and competitive franchise like NRL Team on and off the field. But it's also about developing talent, players, coaches, and administrators. It's also about getting into schools, getting into grassroots, and it's also about making sure that there is going to be infrastructure build that will be, generational change.
Seems like a full compound over there for the players. Is that?
There will be a high performance center of excellence. Yeah. There will be, best in class out of any NRL club for a men's and women's team and for multiple age groups. And then there will be a residential. I don't like the word compound. There will be a residential unit that'll be end to end. That'll be able to house not just the players but the administrators and their families, including schools, and it'll be brand new. It'll be safe. It'll be secure, and it'll be a community environment.
Big undertaking.
It's massive.
Massive undertaking.
It's massive. And I don't know if these are rumours or true, but like that players won't get like tax concessions or it's tax free. Is that
the PNG government? The PNG government are going to be providing tax relief to expats that I'll go over. But it's all in my view that's all short term. Yes, for the first couple of years there'll need to be players relocate, as was the case with the Dolphins, right? Who were around for 74 years prior to entering the competition. But eventually, this is going to become a team that's going to be built out of the talent that exists in that country. Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah, I find the people frustrated or who have an issue with it, and they're sort of like, well, no one at the Dolphins got that. I'm like, it's not really the same thing though, is it? You are asking people to go and live in Papua New Guinea and completely uproot their life.
But it's already structurally different, right? So Penrith exists in an area where there are significant grassroots competition. New Zealand is very different to the Canberra Raiders. Like living in Canberra is very different to living in Melbourne. The Sydney teams have great facilities, and this is a rugby league market, but there's 9 of them. It's highly competitive. So there are structural differences, and that's part of the challenge. That's part of who we are, and that's part of the fabric of rugby league.
Punters, it was just a quick break in proceedings, in transmission, to shout out our friends at Ned's, who have been very, very grateful to me over this trial period of rugby league, because I am as cold as ice.
Big Ned's loving Big Tommy.
Yeah,
this trial season.
They are loving me, dude. They are absolutely loving me. And listen, if you want to see what bets to not do, download the Ned's app. You go look at my profile. And then just go, okay, well, Tommy Burns has put on fucking Bryce Cartwright anytime. Yeah. Don't do that.
That's what not to do. Yeah. So follow along. You'll get all our bad tips, and you can avoid them like the plague. Shout out to Ned's.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Record-breaking year last year, which we love. There was one number that really got me going, though, and I reckon it probably got you going too. Beat the AFL by 10% in the viewership numbers.
Well, it's actually more if you count Origin and
but I mean, just on a regular season, like, you know, obviously Origin.
The
just
fact you're able
crushes
to
them.
not count Origin, and
But that's what I
beat them
mean.
is
I think
quite a nice flex.
that's the most impressive.
How much more is it if you include Origin? 100%.
Just keep adding, scabbing noughts. I like it. Talk it up.
We'll clip that up.
No, it is something like. Look, I'm inherently competitive by nature. I like to win table tennis. I like to win, like games with my kids. But it's not so much about beating the AFL. In all seriousness, it's just about like wanting us to keep growing. But also, here's something: people inside rugby league know and love it. They experience it, right? They know the game, they know the history, and they're in. But all of these fans on the periphery, they kind of, those are the ones that like they don't realize what a great sport this is and how much advocacy we can get. And so I take a lot of enjoyment out of showing the data and showing people just how big this sport is, how entertaining it is, how engaging it is. And I think sometimes people are surprised by the size of the sport. We in the sport aren't, but others on the outside aren't. And I quite enjoy having a chat to people that perhaps don't live in rugby league heartland and showing them objectively just how strong and how great our sport is. With lots of work to do.
Yes.
It seems to me that you're starting to buy up a lot of pubs and hotels and resorts. So I've got one I want you to take to Peter and the commission. So it's
Have
called...
you got the business case? Yeah, can we?
It's the Western Plains Tourist Park in Dubbo. Okay,
It is a Dubbo native.
I'm a Dubbo native. It's next to Sencho, which is a mall on the main street,
which is good.
You're getting about 65 lots down there. I think 8 are permanent. Now, it is on a floodplain, so it floods like every 10 years. I think we can look past that.
Are we in between flooding
if we can get the numbers right, do you want to have a look at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be
I think you pick it up for like $3 million.
It'd be rude not to. Yeah.
I think you got to have
you're talking about expanding the asset base. Now, this is how you do it.
Yeah. We'd have to go and do some due diligence up there and just check it out. And, make sure
you'd show them around.
Yeah, I'd show them. We'll get the old man to show them around.
Yeah, exactly. Get Eddie's dad to take you to the resto bar for lunch.
Have you heard of the Resto Bar?
I haven't, but I look forward to
good. Best Indian in town.
First-hand experience.
Yeah. What about the Super League? In terms of buying things, we've heard that the NRL is looking at buying the Super League.
Buy it up.
Look, we want. You heard me earlier talking about the globalization of our sport and getting rugby league to be truly global sport. The NRL competition growing and doing well is one thing. We want Super League to do well as well. Yeah. So we're in constant communication with them to look at ways in which we can work together and cooperate. One of those would be, an example would be making sure that they were included with Las Vegas. We saw that as a great opportunity. We're also thinking about the international season and how that fits together. We want the Super League to be thriving and to be healthy and for it to access even more people in Europe. So the NRL growing in Europe strategically is a good ambition for us. There's nothing in front of us at the moment that says, this is the way to do it, but we're looking at it.
Do you ever look at, and this is something just sort of popped up in my head now, but like the way that even like I think it's in England, the 100, like they've got Saudi sort of investment buying franchises and things like that. Is there any...
It's like their Big Bash.
So it's their Big Bash, the 100. Is there any world where you explore that sort of, like, there's so much money, Saudi money, and whether it's Live Golf, whether it's the cricket franchise, I'm pretty sure there's one of them at least that's interested in buying a Big Bash franchise. But is that something is that even on the table? Is that
not at the moment? Yeah. I mean, obviously, if there's an opportunity and it's the right opportunity, it'll be looked at. We've got the commission have made it clear that the preference for ownership of new franchises is a member-based model where it's got a real sense of the community as opposed to a privately owned model. That's not to say never. It's just to say that we prefer a member-based model. There's a lot more sustainability that can be created around that. But thinking about and of course the other constraint in our sport, it's a contact sport. We've got a long season and we don't necessarily. Our sport doesn't lend itself to let's just have a couple of nines tournaments in a row on a couple of weekends.
Sure, yeah.
But having said that, there has to be a way for us to think about how we get investment from around the world to help us globalize the sport. And solving that will be, part of the fun over the next couple of years. Hopefully you guys have got some good ideas for us as well.
We've always got ideas. You speak about how physical the game is. It is a long season. Like, for example, it's got to be the most physical game on the planet. It's 27 rounds. The NFL is 18. Is there a view to making the season shorter at all? Is there any appetite for that? I speak from my own personal experience. I think there is a little bit of lethargy throughout the season.
Yeah.
It can be. I think it's probably a pinch long. How do you look at that internally?
No, I think that's fair. 27 rounds is a lot, and obviously we expanded it to include the 3 buys.
Sure.
So it's the 24 matches over 27 weeks. I think we are definitely looking at, well, how could we tweak that and what's optimal? And a shorter premiership with a slightly different structure might actually, give us a better overall season structure. And that's taking into account 2 things. One is obviously thinking about the players and what's optimal for them over the course of the year in terms of both training and matches. You speak to the players, they just want to play matches. They'd rather play than train. So if you're not playing matches, you've got to make sure that you're regulating how much training there is too and the preseason. So we're thinking about that. Thinking about the amount of football training and matches. We're thinking about the right configuration, the length of the Premiership in relation to Origin, in relation to a growing international season. And I think, hopefully in the new cycle, we've got the opportunity to potentially have slightly less rounds with a bit more meaning and thinking about where everything fits. Yes, absolutely.
Tom and I,
it's like a game of Tetris.
You would get asked this all the time. I would say probably every couple of weeks, most likely. But we're going to ask again because we just want to put it to bed, one way or the other.
Well, you've covered the Bears.
Yeah,
you've covered Pub in Dubbo.
You've
covered.
Well, you're giving us rights to use NRL content.
Exactly.
Right.
You say, for free.
For free. Just for you guys.
State of Origin.
Yeah.
The schedule of it.
Yeah.
The regular season does lose punch when Origin's on because the best players aren't playing. That seems obvious.
Does it?
Well, it does to us. However, I will say this. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Like Origin hums the way it's set up, where it's every 3 weeks on a Wednesday night, it pumps. I like it that way, but I'm also like, could we be doing something else with the regular season games? Where are we at with it? Is it just like we're leaving it? Do you talk about it all the time? Where are things at?
So there's a couple of things there, right? One is you could say theoretically play the Premiership, then play Origin, then play internationals.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of challenges with that because at the end of the Premiership, when you're playing Origin, there are a number of other players that aren't experiencing football, and you can't play Origin at the same time as internationals because obviously it's similar players. So you want to try and create a situation where you are trying to deal with as many of the constraints as possible. And the truth is, what do we love about Origin as it is at the moment? A couple of things. One is we're slap bang in the middle of winter, right? And on a cold Wednesday night, we all need something to look forward to. So hear me out here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
On a cold Wednesday night, and you said it's a long Premiership, right? So your team is going to go through ups and downs, several of those throughout the year, right? There's going to be, changes in forms, maybe some injuries and whatever. There's this long, tough marathon Premiership. It is a gritty, it is a tough, but it is an engaging competition, right? Anyone can beat anyone on any given day. And then in the middle of it all, on a cold Wednesday night, we see the best of the Bears hit it out. And we get a lot of buys through that period. So we give a lot of the teams a chance to recover and have a breath as well. And we do get a slightly different narrative over that period. And it's spread out over effectively almost, 6 to 8 weeks. So it's almost covering 3 months. Now we've got a women's State of Origin on Thursday night. So we've got men's and women's. We've got the under-19s Origin. And it's just giving everyone this whole other narrative. Now you think about wanting to win new fans. One thing Origin does for us is we get a heap of people around the world that aren't hardcore rugby league fans leaning in. Because it's just such this rivalry that just transcends sport, right? And it's spread out, and there's stories to be told. I think there's more that we can be doing for it. So I'm making the case for keeping it throughout the winter across the competition, because you are also, just hear me out here, giving the players an opportunity to go back to their clubs and play games in between, as opposed to being out of action for 3 or 4 weeks and that club losing their player there. There's no perfect system.
Yeah.
But I think I think we've arrived at something for a reason, and we've trialed different things over the years. I mean, Origin's been played on every day of the week, I think, except for like 1 or 2 days. I think it works. I don't know. Personally, I love it. I look forward to it. The Premiership gets off with a bang, and then we go through all our big themes round, Easter, Anzac. We've got Magic round. And then just when you think you've seen it all, you get hit with Origin.
Yeah.
And then after Origin, you got the race to the finals.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I think that
on a level, I love the answer.
No, it's a
I
great
always
answer.
thought that I'd like it at the end of the season. And we had it one year, and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't like this, and that was
Too quick.
It's too quick, and
yeah.
there was something about having them one week after another, which I once upon a time thought that'd be good, but it's not. You need to build drama.
You let it breathe a bit more.
Yeah, no, I like the answer.
No, that was a good answer. And
Also,
I
playing
mean,
3 Origins in a row, that's tough, right?
Yeah, that
and then
is.
into tests, you're going to lose, I think, players through attrition and through injury. So this gives a bit of ebb and flow.
that cold winter's night stuff got me going. That
I
was,
was-
I'm there.
At a pub in Dubbo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously. Going for the blue. You go for the Blues, don't you?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's always good to have it 1-1.
Yeah.
So whoever wins game 2, I'm going for the other team.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you give them, game 1, I'm going for the other
Because
team.
you're thinking
in game
dollars.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, you want that thing to be a decider.
Yeah.
No one wants a dead rubber. Now, this is a Rugby League Live 3, which my brother kindly brought in for us today, it works on a PS5, but obviously that's a PlayStation 5. I don't know if you're a gamer yourself.
I know what a PS.
Yeah.
is.
Well, listen, I don't know. There are no more Rugby League games getting
I'm not
made.
that old.
No, I know. That was disrespectful.
My grey
of me.
hair is misleading, right?
I've got grey hair too, mate. So
As
don't
is
worry
my
about it.
receding hairline.
There's no rugby. The thing is, there may be Rugby League 4. That's as high as it goes. This game slaps. Everyone loved it. Every Rugby League fan wants another game. I know they're not cheap necessarily, but just whether there's an interest.
I've got good news. I love games, and I'm a big believer in gamification as a way of also connecting with and winning new fans.
Yeah.
But also a great way for existing fans. There's a new game in the works, and it'll be multi-platform. It'll be much more online and much more contemporary. And it will be released this year. And it's exciting for us because it's another way for us to connect with fans out of the season, in between games.
Yeah.
And just like fantasy football, just like tipping, and we don't want to just stop there with the PS or the Xbox platforms. We also want to find, and this is big on the Commission's agenda, smaller games that are, when I say smaller games, like other ways in which we can connect with rugby league fans in a fun way.
So, like, you mean like it could be like an app where you've got some little game, or it's like a conversion game, whatever else.
Yeah.
Like stick cricket.
Yes, stick cricket.
Stick league.
Listen, sticky. That is just music to our ears. I can't tell you, because like we game not a lot, but the only games that I own are sports games. I was playing cricket 2022 on the weekend, much to my wife's frustration, and I'm just like, I need another rugby league game. It was the first one was when we were in high school. I think the first one that came out.
Rugby League 1 came out, yeah. But then apparently there's a game before that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but-
doesn't it?
No, I get it completely. Like when I was growing up, this is going to give away my age. I remember playing games on a ZX Spectrum with and then a Commodore 64 with a tape where you had to load the game, and
That is giving away your age. I've never heard that in my
big
life.
time. But Rugby League Live, I play with my kids all the time, and so I'm excited for the new version.
What team do you play with?
Ooh, we create our own.
So political.
You're not going to give me. You're not going to give me.
Well, who
No,
do your
you're
kids
gonna
play with?
No, to be honest, my daughter will go for sort of the kind of, if she likes a couple of the players, then she'll go with that.
As is the right of a child.
Yeah. My son is a Roosters fan because his name's Anthony, and he met Anthony Minicello when he was really young at a camp.
Okay.
And ever since then, he's gone for the Roosters. Shows you the power of the players to connect with
Absolutely.
with young people.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't hate Mini.
No, you can't hate Mini either.
We heard some whispers recently. that the NRL's looking at potentially awarding the 2007 Premiership to Manly.
Sort of posthumously.
Posthumously.
Because,
Is there any truth to that?
Did you hear this at a pub in Dubbo? No, I must be honest. A lot of things hit my desk every day. That's not one of them.
That's not one of them?
Yeah.
Jeez,
But would you look at it?
No.
Okay.
Right,
Listen,
okay.
it was worth a try.
Yeah.
Try and sneak that in. One question I just wanted to ask before you go is, I guess the CEO of Rugby League is like quite a front-facing job. Like, you're famous, for lack of a better term. It's not necessarily something that you experience in all CEO roles. What's that been like for you? Was there an adjustment in any way, or have you found it pretty comfortable?
That's a good question. It definitely was an adjustment. It's kind of happened because this is my 12th year working at the NRL. Getting to know and love and understand the game this is my 6th season as CEO, but 12th at the NRL. I've had a relationship with a lot of the stakeholders prior to becoming the CEO, and I think that helped. I think Peter, as chairman, has a really good relationship with the media, and that's taking a bit of pressure off me, which has obviously helped. And because I'm actually quite an introvert and private person. However, when you really believe in something and when you feel like you are part of something that you're really proud of and that you want to see grow and prosper, it becomes much more comfortable. And so being able to stand up in media or being able to be stopped in the street and ask questions is something that I enjoy. And I welcome more so than I thought I would. I was probably quite nervous and anxious about it, but it actually ended up being something that I actually enjoy, because I enjoy talking and meeting people. I enjoy listening. I enjoy getting the feedback. I get a lot of feedback.
Any notable pieces of feedback?
Yeah.
Sack Ashley Klein.
It's quite interesting. When I'm in an airport, I can always tell obviously you know where you're going, but like if I'm in Adelaide, for example, I can it's a free pass. I can do whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
Quite funny, when I landed in Perth once, it said, I got a text from Telstra saying, "Welcome to international roaming." I was like, what's going on here? But when, and obviously when, in and around games or in and around, New South Wales or Queensland, I get lots of great ideas and lots of feedback from fans. It's always good. It's always well-spirited. It's always well-natured. The toughest feedback I get is probably from my kids and my kids' friends. Somehow they seem to be a little bit less filtered and quite direct.
Yeah.
So that's actually, I find it harder if there's like a lot of young people around and they are a bit more comfortable around me. I feel it's like a bit more direct.
You're having to do press conferences in the kitchen to a bunch of kids talking.
That is actually the hardest, much harder than anything else I've faced, actually.
Oh, dear. Mate, well, thank you very much for coming on. It's been lovely to have a chat. I've really enjoyed it. Safe flight to Vegas.
Hey, this has been a highlight for me. Like, you guys are really good at your job. You've got a cult following. You love league and you do a great job with sport. But being able to talk to you has been a highlight for me as well. This is something I was actually looking forward to. So well done on what you guys have built here, and well done for the way in which you connect with people and tell the stories of our sport and sport in generally. And thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks for the time.
Beautiful.
No worries.
Could you two just not talk anymore?